right, fellow Z owners, we are getting into it now. So like an idiot, I have decided to get rid of my factory wheel and replace it with an aftermarket option, as you've probably seen elsewhere. So involved with that is a certain amount of disassembly to get down to all the nuts and bolts of your BMW, including this monstrosity, which is where all the fun bells and whistles of your BMW come to live on the steering column. So with that comes all these fun ports on the back here. So we've got a wiring harness coming in here, a wiring harness coming in here, a wiring harness coming in here, and who knows, maybe even more beyond that. But anyway, and then those all come out either in their various features or out front into this monstrosity, which is your airbag primers. You have two airbag connections and then your horn connection. So what I have done using my handy dandy Harbor Freight, I don't know, like $5 multimeter there, is traced back the wiring and found out on this front piece, well, actually what I did is using a series of screwdrivers, I popped this ring off to see if I could trace wires from the back to the front. Listen to me here, okay? Listening? Do not do that. Oh my God, do not do that. It is nightmare fuel inside of this thing. There's like 10 ribbons wound around this 1,000 times. They're carefully nested. It's incredibly hard to get off and it's not great to get back on. Do not do that, okay? What you're gonna wanna do is take your handy dandy multimeter from Harbor Freight or eBay or wherever else you get it, and you're gonna map from this wiring harness to the front, checking continuity and resistance by plugging in this bad boy and checking the various points. So by doing that, I ended up with this carefully drawn scientific diagram. And what that is are the pins inside of this wiring harness and what they correspond to up front. So on the back end, we have one side with 4 pins, one side with 5. The bottom 2 on the short side are your black airbag connector. The top 2 on the short side are your yellow and green airbag connector. And the top 2 on the long side, that's these guys for your horn. This is how we're gonna make the horn actually work on our aftermarket steering wheel. The other 3, don't know, probably have to do with the steering wheel mounted controls, don't care. I just wanted to clean up this stuff. So now we get to go about making a custom wiring harness to take the place of this guy. So we're still gonna connect up all of our other fun stuff, but this guy has got to go because there is unfortunately nowhere near enough room underneath my, my ultra short steering hub to accommodate this mess. Not to mention when you put in these nice little airbag replacement resistors that I've got. So with that said, let's jump on in and make ourselves a custom harness. Okay, so I've got a bundle of these little jumpers, male pin to female pin, your classic eBay special, because you know how I roll. What we've got on the back side here is the male side, so those are the pins. So we're going to replace those or simulate those in our wiring harness by stacking these up as such, and those will feed into the factory harness coming off of the steering column. And then on the back end here, we are going to make all of our connections to do the various things that we want to do. So to start off with, I am going to kind of rough out where I want these to be, and we'll have to be somewhat mindful of that. So we're looking at something about like that to duplicate what we have on the steering wheel. So 4 on one side, 5 on the other, stacked up in 2 columns like that. So then we'll need to trace which colors those correspond to and map them out on these sides and make our various connections. So if I follow my guide that I made here, if I just assume that I'll plug in the 4 on the short side first, I've got these 2 and these 2. So gray and purple are going to get plugged in. So gray and purple, that should take the place of this black connector for our airbag. Next up, we have blue and green. So blue and green, you are up. These little airbag simulators, I believe, if I understand correctly, they're just a resistor with a nice casing. So it shouldn't matter polarity, how they're connected. So that should take care of our short side, and then it's just a matter of how we want to set up our long side. So that's these 4 spoken for. It just sort of makes sense to have the rest of these go down in line in terms of color. So those bottom 3 are going to be our unused, and these connectors are great because it leaves them with this kind of nicely terminated insulated end. We'll throw some electrical tape around those and call it a day. And then these 2, the black and brown, will actually be what connects up to this guy, and that's what will connect through from the front. And then we'll make a matching harness that will come off of here and feed through our steering wheel hub. And that'll be how we get our horn signal. So I'll do just a little bit of preparation on this to make sure this all stays together. But this section of the harness, at least in terms of what we can do on the kitchen table, is basically done. Okay, so we've got our ends soldered in, our little connector made, and our harness made for this side of the steering hub, so we are good to go. Okay, so we're out here in the car, and we've got most of the harnesses that we're not really worried about are all connected up. So all that's left is to figure out what to do with this guy. So again, we've got our custom harness out here and our highly technical schematic. So we're going to peek at this guy. And okay, so 4 and 5. This matches up in this way. Okay, so the 4 side is that side, the far side there. So we're going to take our custom harness, and our airbags are purple and black, purple and gray rather, and green and blue. And then we're just going to come in here and do purple and gray along with green and blue. And then on the other side we have our 3 that we don't really care about because they're no longer going to be in use. So we'll go ahead and plug in those jumpers. Order on this really doesn't matter because these are going to nowhere at the moment. Now it's worth noting, if I was retaining the factory stereo or trying to retain the steering wheel controls, I might do something with those, but since I'm not, I'm not. And then these 2 will go up top. These are the positive and ground for the horn. And so there is our custom harness. So we'll go ahead and bind these together to just help them hold their shape. And lastly, we're going to want to again consult our chart there. And we've got these 2 ends bound together. So those are going to go up on the topmost 2 spots. Okay. She seems nice and sturdy. All of our wires are connected up. So now we'll do a test run on the horn, which we recall from earlier when we were inside is the 2 rightmost buttons. We'll have to connect the battery up, but once we do that, in theory, everything should work right and we should get a horn. So let's go see what happens. Okay, we have reconnected power. The door airbag hasn't gone off, so that's a good sign. We'll put our key in. Looks like we have a seatbelt or airbag warning. That could be because the seat's missing, but here's the real money. Hey, hey! Looks like our system works. So we're off to a great start on putting this bad boy back together. There you go. One new steering wheel installed.